Repairing TPS issues like a pro is quick and easy. Today we are revealing those secret tricks many experts currently use. We also have a hidden calibration trick that will make your engine feel like new again. Let's hop in. Number 1. Sync throttle angles with live data adjustment. Even after cleaning, replacing, and resetting components, your throttle system can still feel slightly off. That's because the ECU and throttle body might not agree on what closed or open really means. Live data adjustment fixes that by syncing both readings in real time, giving your engine complete harmony between hardware and software. Connect your OBD2 scanner and go to the throttle position data section. With the ignition on, engine off, watch the idle value. It should read between 0.4 and 0.7 volts for most cars. If it's outside that range, loosen the throttle body screw slightly and adjust its position until the reading falls within spec. Tighten everything and restart the car to confirm. This is the kind of micro-tuning that separates professional throttle calibration from basic cleaning. When the ECU and TPS are perfectly aligned, throttle response becomes instant. Idle stabilizes and hesitation disappears completely. After performing this sync, most drivers notice their engines idling smoother than they have in years, especially after long-term carbon buildup or sensor replacement. Number 2. Inspect your accelerator pedal position sensor. Many drivers replace their throttle position sensor when the real issue lies with the accelerator pedal sensor. Both work together. The TPS reads the throttle plate's position, while the APP sensor tells the ECU how far you're pressing the pedal. If either one drifts out of sync, the result is delayed throttle response or unstable idle. To check it, connect your OBD2 scanner and look for accelerator pedal position data. Slowly press and release the pedal. The reading should increase smoothly from 0 to 100%. Any sudden jumps, drops, or dead zones mean your pedal sensor is failing or dirty. On some cars, you can clean the sensor's connector with an electronic contact cleaner to restore a stable signal. If it's too far gone, replacing it is the only option. Fixing both the TPS and the pedal sensor together ensures that your throttle system works as one, giving you instant, predictable response every time you press the gas. Number 3. Find hidden vacuum leaks that fool your TPS. A vacuum leak can trick your throttle position sensor into giving false signals. When unmetered air sneaks into the intake manifold, the ECU sees mismatched readings between airflow, throttle angle, and fuel trim, which causes a shaky idle or hesitation under acceleration. To check for leaks, start the engine and lightly spray carb cleaner or brake cleaner around the intake manifold gaskets, throttle body base, and vacuum hoses. If the idle suddenly changes while spraying a specific spot, you've found the leak. Replace that hose or gasket immediately. You can also use a smoke machine if you want a professional level test. The smoke will pour out of any crack, making leaks easy to find. Fixing even a small leak can stabilize throttle readings and stop those annoying surges or dips in idle speed. If you appreciate the value already provided, consider subscribing. Number 4. Lubricate the throttle linkage and return spring. Most people never touch the outside of their throttle body, but a dry or corroded linkage can sabotage your throttle smoothness just as much as a bad sensor. Even in drive-by-wire systems, the throttle shaft and spring still move mechanically, and if they start sticking, your engine can idle unevenly or even hang at high RPM before dropping. Start by removing the intake hose and visually inspecting the throttle linkage with the spring coils. You'll often see a dull, dry metal surface or fine corrosion dust. Use a cleaner to remove old grime first, then apply a very light mist of silicone or PTFE lubricant on the moving joints and spring ends. Avoid petroleum-heavy sprays near the TPS housing because they can damage the sensor's seals. After lubrication, manually rotate the throttle plate a few times to work the lubricant through the pivot. You should feel a smoother, quicker return to the closed position. This improves throttle consistency, prevents premature wear on the return spring, and ensures that the TPS always gets accurate position readings. Number 5. Clean and lubricate the accelerator accelerator cable. If your car still uses a cable-driven throttle, years of grime and friction inside the sheath can make the pedal feel heavy or cause uneven acceleration. That slight resistance doesn't just affect pedal feel, it also confuses your throttle position reading since the cable doesn't return to its exact starting point every time. To fix it, disconnect the accelerator cable from both the throttle body and the pedal linkage. Hold the cable upright and spray a small amount of silicone or PTFE lubricant into the sheath. Move the inner cable back and forth several times to distribute it evenly. Avoid WD-40 or oil-based sprays that attract dirt or break down the cable lining. Once the cable glides smoothly, reconnect it and check for free movement by pressing the pedal slowly. You should feel a light, consistent resistance all the way through its range. A smooth cable ensures your throttle plate follows your foot precisely, restoring crisp throttle control and more accurate sensor readings. Number 6. Test ECU voltage stability under load. A throttle position sensor can only be as accurate as the power feeding it. When your ECU doesn't receive stable voltage, even a good TPS can output erratic signals that confuse the system. This often happens in older cars where alternators, batteries, or wiring harnesses have weakened over time. To check this, use a multimeter and connect it to your battery terminals. With the engine idling, you should see a steady reading between 13.8 and 14.4 volts. Turn on your headlights, AC, and rear defogger at the same time. The voltage should remain within that same window. If it dips below 13 volts or jumps above 15, your alternator's voltage regulator might be failing. Unstable voltage causes the ECU to fluctuate between rich and lean fuel trims, which directly affects idle and throttle response. Fixing this early not only restores smoothness, but also protects every other sensor in the system from premature failure. Number 7. Clean the mass airflow sensor. Even with a perfect throttle, your ECU can still get confused if the mass airflow sensor is dirty. This tiny sensor measures how much air enters your engine, and if it misreads, the ECU adjusts fuel delivery incorrectly. The result? Rough idle, sluggish throttle, or random surging. Remove the sensor carefully from the intake tube. It's usually held by 2 screws. Spray MAF cleaner only on the delicate wires or film inside. Never touch them with your fingers or a brush. They're extremely sensitive. Let it dry completely before reinstalling. A clean MAF sends accurate airflow data, allowing the ECU to balance fuel and air perfectly. You'll notice a smoother, idle, and faster throttle response within minutes. Number 8. Inspect and replace cracked intake boots. Even the best throttle calibration means nothing if unmetered air sneaks past the sensors. The intake boot, which connects your air filter housing to the throttle body, can develop small cracks or holes over time. Those leaks let extra air in after the MAF sensor, throwing off your air-fuel mixture and causing a rough, idle, hesitation, or stalling. Start by removing the intake tube and flexing it under good light. Look closely for splits around the bends or clamps. They often hide underneath. If you spot cracks, replace the boot entirely instead of patching it. Temporary tape fixes fail quickly under heat and vibration. When you install the new one, make sure every hose clamp is snug but not over-tightened, and that all connected vacuum lines fit firmly. This ensures that all the air entering your engine is correctly measured by the sensors. You'll often notice the idle smooth out almost immediately after replacing a damaged boot. It's one of the cheapest repairs that makes the biggest difference. Number 9. Clean the idle air control passage. If your car idles rough even after resets and cleaning, the problem may not be the throttle plate, but the idle air control valve and its passage. Over time, carbon and oil vapors clog the narrow channel that controls idle airflow, making the ECU struggle to stabilize RPMS. Start by removing the IAC valve, usually found near the throttle body. Spray throttle body or carburetor cleaner through both the valve and the small passage it mounts to. Let it soak for a few minutes, then wipe away the residue. When reinstalling, make sure the gasket is seated properly to avoid vacuum leaks. Once clean, your engine can finally breathe evenly at idle, restoring smoothness and consistency. Number 10. Check and clean your ground connections. A bad ground wire can mimic a dying throttle sensor. When the connection between your ECU, throttle body, and chassis weakens, voltage signals start fluctuating. That inconsistency causes hesitation, random stalling, or poor idle that feels exactly like a bad TPS. To fix it, locate your main engine ground strap, usually a thick braided wire connecting the battery negative to the frame or engine block. Remove the bolts, clean the contact points with sandpaper or a wire brush, then tighten them back firmly. Do the same for smaller grounds near the intake manifold or throttle body. A clean ground ensures the ECU gets a steady signal from every sensor, including the TPS. Many throttle problems disappear right after this simple step. Number 11. Apply a protective coating to your throttle body. Keeping your throttle body clean isn't just about wiping it down occasionally, it's about stopping grime from sticking in the first place. Every time your engine shuts off, vapors from the PCV system and oil mist settle on the throttle plate. Over time, that buildup restricts airflow and makes your TPS read inconsistently. After cleaning, spray a light layer of silicone-based protectant or dry Teflon lubricant on the throttle plate and surrounding housing. These coatings form a microscopic barrier that resists oil and carbon deposits. Avoid heavy petroleum sprays, which can leave residue or damage rubber seals around the sensor. When applied correctly, this thin film prevents carbon from sticking, keeps the throttle plate moving freely, and reduces the need for deep cleanings. It's a professional trick that can extend throttle life dramatically, especially in high-mileage engines. Number 12. Clean the air intake temperature sensor. Your throttle position sensor depends on more than just pedal input. It also works with the air intake temperature sensor to calculate the right fuel and airflow mix. If that sensor gets dirty, it can make the ECU think the air is hotter or colder than it really is, and that throws everything off. Locate the IAT sensor, usually mounted on the intake manifold or near the throttle body. Disconnect the plug and spray electronic contact cleaner on the tip of the sensor to remove any oil or dust buildup. Let it air dry completely before reconnecting it. A clean IAT sensor helps the ECU deliver consistent throttle and idle performance, especially when temperatures change rapidly between cold mornings and warm afternoons. Drivers often notice smoother acceleration and better fuel economy after cleaning it. Number 13. Build a monthly throttle maintenance routine. Throttle problems rarely happen overnight. They build up slowly as dust, oil vapor, and carbon collect inside the throttle body and connectors. That's why a quick monthly routine can prevent 90% of idle and hesitation problems before they even start. Every month, take 5 minutes to inspect your air intake hose, throttle body, and nearby connectors. Wipe away any visible grime with a microfiber cloth, spray a bit of throttle cleaner into the air intake while the engine is off, and check that all clamps and sensors are snug. Once a month of doing this can save you from costly diagnostics later on. It's also smart to disconnect your battery once every 6 months for a short ECU reset, letting the system relearn fuel trims and throttle angle with clean readings. Preventive care like this keeps the throttle plate smooth, sensors accurate, and idle steady. Number 14. Clear adaptive throttle memory without removing the battery. Most drivers don't realize that their ECU constantly learns and adapts to driving habits, fuel quality, and even wear inside the throttle body. Over time, those learned adjustments can drift too far, leaving the engine sluggish or unresponsive. Clearing the adaptive throttle memory resets those learned values so the ECU can start fresh. To do it, turn the ignition key to the on position without starting the car. Wait 3 seconds, then press and hold the accelerator fully for 10 seconds. Turn the ignition off while still holding the pedal down, then release it. Wait another 10 seconds before starting the car. This sequence wipes stored throttle trim data and lets the ECU recalibrate idle and response based on live readings again. The result is sharper throttle response and smoother acceleration without touching any tools or disconnecting power. Number 15. Use an OBD2 scanner to test your TPS signal. If your throttle still feels unpredictable, don't start guessing. A cheap OBD2 scanner can reveal exactly how your throttle position sensor is behaving. Plug it into the port under your dashboard, turn the ignition to on, and scroll to the live data section labeled Throttle Position. As you slowly press and release the pedal, the reading should move smoothly from around 0 to 100%. If the numbers jump, lag, or freeze, your TPS is sending bad data to the ECU. This quick check can confirm whether the sensor is truly faulty or if something else like wiring or a ground connection is the problem. It's the same step most mechanics take before replacing parts. Number 16. Service or replace the idle air control valve. The idle air control valve quietly regulates airflow when your foot is off the gas. It works alongside the throttle body to maintain stable RPMs at stoplights or when you start the car cold. Over time, carbon buildup or mechanical wear can make the valve stick, forcing your ECU to chase the correct idle speed. That's what causes those slow RPM dips or surges you feel when idling. To fix it, locate the IAC valve near the throttle body and remove it carefully. Spray carb or throttle cleaner directly into the valve ports to dissolve grime, then wipe off excess residue with a soft cloth. Inspect the rubber O-ring for cracks or flattening, as this can cause vacuum leaks. If it's worn out, replace it before reinstalling the valve. If your IAC is electronic, use contact cleaner on the connector and check resistance with a multimeter to make sure it's within manufacturer specs. Once everything's back in place, restart the car and let it idle for 10 minutes while the ECU relearns. This single fix often cures rough idling entirely, especially in cars that idle fine cold but stumble when warm. Number 17. Test your TPS voltage sweep like a pro. If you really want to know whether your throttle position sensor is working perfectly, it's time to test its voltage sweep. This method shows whether your TPS is giving smooth, linear readings or sending erratic signals that confuse the ECU. It's the exact test mechanics used before recommending replacement. Grab a digital multimeter and back probe the TPS signal wire while the ignition is on, but the engine is off. You should see around 0.4 to 0.7 volts at closed throttle and about 4.5 volts at full throttle. Slowly press the accelerator and watch the numbers climb. They should rise smoothly without sudden jumps or drops. If you notice spikes or dead zones, your TPS is wearing out. Replacing it will immediately fix throttle hesitation, improve idle quality, and restore full responsiveness. Doing this test once or twice a year ensures your throttle system stays calibrated and responsive for the long haul. Number 18. Calibrate your throttle after battery replacement. Every time you disconnect or replace your car battery, the ECU loses the learned data that links your throttle pedal, throttle plate, and idle control system. When that memory resets, the car may start but idle roughly, rev too high, or hesitate when you tap the gas. Drivers often mistake this for a failing TPS, but it's actually just an uncalibrated throttle body. To recalibrate properly, start by turning the ignition key to the on position without cranking the engine. Wait for 10 seconds to let the ECU power up fully. Then press the accelerator pedal all the way down and hold it there for about 5 seconds. Release it slowly, turn the ignition off, and wait another 10 seconds before starting the car. When you start the engine, let it idle undisturbed for several minutes while the ECU relearns airflow and throttle response. During this time, the system maps new voltage ranges for both your throttle position sensor and your pedal position sensor, ensuring they match perfectly again. Performing this step after every battery disconnect keeps your throttle calibration consistent, eliminates hesitation, and prevents erratic idling that mechanics often misdiagnose as a bad TPS. Number 19. Perform a key-on pedal reset. This simple reset is one of the most effective ways to bring your throttle response back to life without touching a single tool. It works by teaching your car's computer to relearn the correct pedal-to-throttle ratio that might have been lost due to low voltage or sensor drift. Here's how to do it. Turn the ignition key to the on position without starting the engine. Slowly press the accelerator pedal all the way down. Hold for a second, then release it gently. Repeat this 2 or 3 times. Turn the ignition ignition off and wait for about 30 seconds. That brief pause lets your ECU record the full pedal range and resync it with the TPS. You'll often notice smoother throttle engagement and more consistent idle immediately afterward. Number 20. Use the fuse pull reset for a deeper calibration. When the standard pedal reset doesn't do the trick, this method clears old TPS data straight from the ECU's memory, forcing your car to start fresh. It's the same trick many dealerships quietly use after throttle body or battery replacements. Start by locating your fuse box, usually under the dashboard or in the engine bay. Find the fuse labeled ECU, PCM, or throttle control. With the ignition off, pull that fuse and leave it out for about 10 to 15 minutes. Then reinstall it and turn the ignition on again for a full system relearn. This clears outdated throttle position values and resets adaptive fuel trims, which helps your car idle smoothly again. It's more targeted than disconnecting the battery, which can wipe radio presets and other settings unnecessarily. Number 21. Clean the throttle body properly. Many drivers replace sensors that aren't even bad. The real issue is carbon buildup around the throttle plate. Over time, air mixed with oil vapors forms a sticky film that stops the plate from closing evenly, which confuses the TPS and ruins your idle. To fix it, disconnect the air intake hose leading to your throttle body. Spray a small amount of throttle body cleaner on a microfiber cloth and gently wipe the inner walls, the edges of the throttle plate, and the surrounding housing. Avoid soaking the sensor directly. You want it clean, not drowned. When you reinstall everything and start the car, the idle may run high for a few minutes while the ECU adjusts. After that, you'll feel a smoother response and cleaner acceleration. Number 22. Listen for early throttle wear sounds. Your throttle body can tell you it's in trouble long before your check engine light does. The key is knowing what to listen for. Subtle clicks, faint buzzes, or rhythmic tapping sounds when you turn the ignition to on are early signs that the throttle plate motor or gears are wearing out. When you hear that brief humming sound after switching the ignition on, that's the electronic throttle body performing a self-check. If the noise lasts longer than a few seconds, stutters, or doesn't happen at all, the internal motor may be dirty or struggling to move the plate. To confirm, remove the intake hose and visually inspect the throttle plate while a helper turns the ignition key. If it twitches or moves unevenly, it's time to clean or replace the throttle assembly before it sticks mid-drive. Catching those tiny signs early can prevent limp mode, protect your TPS, and save hundreds in diagnostics. Number 23. Perform an electronic throttle relearn. Modern cars use electronic throttle control instead of a direct cable, which means your ECU needs to sync the throttle plate electronically. When that sync drifts, the throttle feels delayed or inconsistent, even after cleaning or resets. Here's how to fix it. Turn the ignition key to the on position, but do not start the engine. Wait 3 seconds, then slowly press the accelerator to the floor and release it 5 times within 5 seconds. Wait another 7 seconds, press the pedal fully again, hold it down for 10 seconds, then release and start the engine. This sequence resets the electronic control module's learned throttle position and helps restore smooth response. The idle might fluctuate briefly, but it should stabilize after a few minutes. A rough idle or lazy throttle doesn't always mean something major is broken. With these pro tricks, you've now got every step to diagnose, clean, and restore your throttle instantly like a mechanic would. What would the cost be for you to find valuable information like this to keep your car in top shape? Let's suppose this channel has that information readily available for you. If all it takes was some of your time to check those videos out, would it be a fair deal for you to obtain this data to help your vehicle? I encourage you to check them if it is, and please share this video with whoever else needs help with their vehicle, and I'll keep you guys posted on the next one.